Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. In this video, I just wanted to drop a little Christmas special and talk about the movie Scrooged. Let's get into it. So, Scrooged is a 1988 parody and retelling of Charles Dickens' classic, A Christmas Carol. It stars Bill Murray, Karen Allen, Carol Kane, and is directed by Richard Donner.
You are going to be visited by 3 ghosts.
Ooh, 3 ghosts.
3 ghosts, Frank.
Sorry if you guys can hear my raspy voice. I'm actually dealing with a sore throat and possibly allergies, but I don't know if I'm actually getting sick or not. But luckily I'm home for the holidays for the next few days, so it hasn't been too bad. But this video was actually unplanned. It's a little off the cuff. I just wanted to give you guys a little holiday quickie. I watched it the other night and I was reminded of just how good and fun this movie was. Growing up, it was a yearly staple in my home, and it didn't even have to be Christmas for us to watch it. Like, my family would just throw this movie in because we just wanted to watch it. Didn't really matter what time of year it was. But I hadn't seen it in quite a few years, and I stumbled across it the other night looking for a movie to watch, and I seen it and I was like, oh yeah, that's what we're watching right there. And just such a blast, guys. I'm not gonna say it's Bill Murray's best performance because, I mean, he did do Ghostbusters and I really liked Groundhog's Day as well, but I think those 3 are easily his top 3 performances. And what's funny about that is I read somewhere, and I don't remember where I read it, and I don't even know how true it is. I don't know if this has any credibility, but I heard that Bill Murray didn't even like that movie, that he's warmed up to it over the years, but when it was made, he thought it was kind of a joke. So if that's true, I just think that's crazy because I think it is such a good movie. So getting right into the things I like about this movie, just the overall tone. It's one of those good examples of a movie that knows how to weave in and out of different tones so seamlessly and effortlessly. You have obviously Bill Murray's humor here. It's all over this movie, and you're not gonna put Bill Murray in a movie and not capitalize on that humor because that's what he does best. But there's also so much emotion and good storytelling going on here, and a lot of it's pretty deep stuff. I mean, yeah, it goes off a pretty standard template. You have obviously the Christmas Carol because that's the movie that it's literally parodying, but there's plenty of movies out there where the basic premise is somebody who goes through life with no joy, and something or someone comes along that causes them to have a change of heart and they go through a transformation throughout the movie. I mean, yeah, that's a pretty standard template. Nothing new there, but I've always said that there's only so many stories in Hollywood. There's only so many stories that can be written, period. So you're going to be hard pressed to find a completely original template or formula. So what a good filmmaker does is they take a familiar premise, a familiar concept or template or formula, like I said, and they just do it again, but they do it right. They do it good. And yeah, there's other movies that have also done it good, but that's all anybody's really looking for. I mean, most of the time we go to a movie, especially a movie like this, for just fun escapism. We're not looking for anything to knock our socks off, but sometimes we get lucky and it ends up doing that anyways. And I would say in the case of Scrooged, it does that. I am so impressed by this movie every time I watch it. It never gets old. It never feels antiquated or outdated. It's a timeless movie that just is a Christmas classic, and really just a classic in general. So essentially you have Bill Murray playing Frank Cross, who is our Ebenezer Scrooge fill-in for this movie. And he is the president of a TV studio. And this is not a good guy. He's not a good boss. He's not a good family member. He's not a good brother. He's not a good anything. He's just a very selfish and calloused man. He will literally fire an employee just for giving him constructive criticism. And that employee is actually played by Bobcat Goldthwait. I don't know if I pronounced that right. Feel free to correct me. I've never really known how to pronounce that actually, and I've never had any desire to go find out. But yeah, he fires him, and that actually comes around later in the movie and plays a more integral role. But that happens like right out the gate. We're not 10 minutes into this movie and he fires that dude just for giving him some advice. But he's not good to his assistant. Like, she has to get her son to a doctor's appointment, and he demands that she works late with him and lets her know she's not getting a bonus, and all he's getting her for Christmas is a towel. In fact, that's all he's getting anybody for Christmas. She's literally got his Christmas list out and asking him what he's getting everybody and going down a checklist, and he gives everybody a towel, even his own brother. But she actually does something pretty funny later on in the movie. I'll get to that in a little bit. But anyways, the story goes on, and you find out this is just not a good dude at all. Like I said, not a good anything. He's not a good boss, not a good friend, not a good boyfriend, not a good family member, not nothing. So at some point, relatively early on in the movie, he ends up getting a visit from the old president of this studio, Lou, I guess is his name, and he actually died several years back. I don't remember if they tell you exactly when he died, but he was basically Frank's predecessor at this company. And he tells Frank, basically, you're living like I lived. You aren't a good person. You're selfish. Like me, he's letting him know I was selfish. Basically, I should have been in the business of being kind and helping people and just loving people and, basically showing human decency. And he tells Frank, you're going to be visited by 3 ghosts. And obviously Frank doesn't believe this. He laughs it off. He shrugs it off. He basically actually chalks it up to just a bad buzz on the alcohol he was drinking. He doesn't even believe any of it actually happened until it starts happening. And everybody knows this story. I mean, most of you have probably seen this movie, but even if you haven't, almost everybody knows the story of Ebenezer Scrooge. They know the Christmas Carol. So you know basically what this movie does from here. It does add its own little twist along the way, but it stays pretty faithful to the source material on all of the major points. And the first ghost that ultimately visits him is the ghost of the past, and he's a taxi driver who's actually real funny. In fact, all of these ghosts, well, okay, no, that ain't true. The first 2 ghosts have awesome personalities, and their characters are just a blast to see on screen. The ghost of the future doesn't have much personality or character. He's just pretty gloom and doom, but obviously he's there to let him know that, hey, your future's not looking good. But we'll get into that here in a minute. The first ghost that actually visits him is, like I said, the taxi driver, and he takes him back to his past and shows him his childhood again. And obviously this stirs up a bunch of emotions. He gets to see his mom again, and he starts crying, and the taxi driver even tells him, you think you're tough, but anytime I do this, anybody that I bring back and show them their childhood and reintroduce them to their parents, especially their mother, they all break. And sure enough, he does. He starts crying, and I mean, rightfully so. I mean, probably anybody would, especially if you've lost your parents. But before all this, after he gets a visit from his old boss, but before the ghosts actually show up, we're reintroduced to one of his old girlfriends, who is actually the main love interest of this movie. And you see that they basically had a history of some sort. You don't know what happened. You just know obviously they're not together now, and it's been 15 years. Well, when the cab driver shows him his past, you're introduced to her for the first time, and you see how they meet, and you basically see their demise as a couple. And you realize it's because, again, he's a selfish dick. But, you can also see that there is a transformation starting to take place even in this first visit, but we're not fully there yet. So then we get to the Ghost of Christmas Present, who is played by Carol Kane. And this is probably my favorite part of this entire movie, just because it's so fun. It's not the most heavy as far as being emotional or anything along those lines. It is just the part of the movie that is just a blast to watch, because this chick is kicking the piss out of him. And actually, she takes him to his brother's house, and obviously they can see his brother and all of their friends, but they can't see him, the magic of the ghost and all the Christmas magic. But as he's watching them and they're all opening their gifts, his brother opens the gift from him, and he was under the impression he got him a towel, but when he opens it up, it was a VHS player. And anybody who was alive back then knows that those things were not cheap. I mean, I think, if I remember correctly, and you can Google it, I think VHS players were anywhere from $600 or $700 to $1,000. So that was a big gift back then. So he gets a little pissed over that, but it's a fun little moment. But you've got Carol Kane over here hitting him in the face and kicking him and smacking him with toasters. It's hilarious. I genuinely laugh every time I watch this segment of this movie. It is so fun. I know I keep saying that I'm kicking a dead horse here, but if you've seen it, you know, and if you haven't seen it, what are you doing watching this? You need to go watch it right now. You're going to fall in love. But anyway, so by this point, he's pretty much there. I mean, he's pretty close to being a changed man. But then he runs into his employee who he fired earlier, Bobcat Goldthwait, he runs into him in the office, actually, of all places, and he's got a shotgun, and he lets him know, you fired me, and because you did that. And by the way, this just happened like the day before, and this dude's already looking like he's been homeless on the street for a month. He said his wife left him. She took her child. He's homeless. He has nothing now, and he's trying to kill Frank Cross, basically. He wants revenge. Well, Frank gets away for a minute, and while he's away, he ends up running into the Ghost of Christmas Future in the elevator. And then this is where we get in probably the most emotional and powerful segment of this movie as far as his transformation, and he's able to fully not just see, but actually understand the repercussions of his ways if he doesn't change. And he sees, yeah, I'm gonna die. The ghost shows him not only his grim future, basically dying young, but he sees the effect it has on his family, especially his brother. He shows him the effect it has on Claire, who was his love interest. She turns into another him. She is not a good person, and it's the result of him. She even says, I'm basically like I am because of my old friend Frank Cross. He's the one that taught me, basically, you've got to look out for yourself, screw everybody else. So he looks at that and he's like, wow, I am not having a positive impact on these people. And you're telling me this is the legacy I left behind when I left this earth. And so, as you can see, there's some deeper things here. I mean, yeah, it is a comedy. It is one of those movies that you can turn your brain off and just watch as a family, and it can just be a fun Christmas movie. But the deeper stuff is there if you want to find it. It's there if you're looking for it. And that right there is what I think makes this movie such a masterpiece and such a classic. I mean, I know this is supposed to be a movie review, and I'm supposed to give you guys the negatives of this movie too, but honestly, I don't have any. I mean, I was watching it, and even while I was taking notes and thinking about this movie all day today, I was actually thinking about, different things I wanted to say, but I couldn't think of a single bad thing to say about this movie. I mean, sure, I'm sure if you were to really eagle eye it and break it down from like an objective filmmaking standpoint, I'm sure this isn't a perfect movie, but I see this movie with nostalgia goggles, and that's a powerful thing. And I just don't have anything bad to say about this movie. So this movie's going to get a pass from me on the negatives, and I'm just going to give it a perfect 10. But anyways, that's it for this one, guys. Go ahead and let me know down in the comments section what you thought of this movie. And in the meantime, like and share this video if you haven't already. Please subscribe, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.